Shalom, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. So I wrote down a study. And, first of all, there are no teachers here. We are all students, and we are all learning, and we are all at different levels of spiritual information based upon where the Father has us with Him through this journey. We are on a pilgrimage here, a lifelong pilgrimage. So everyone's not at the same level. So I pray that we have patience with each other and let the Father speak to us. Okay. So today's study is based upon the great God and King, and it starts off with Psalm 93, and it says, "O come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout joyfully to the Rock of our salvation." I'm going to pause there for a minute. Who is this referring to? Yeshua. He is the Rock of our salvation. You're going to see Him all over the book when Father opens up your eyes. So I'm going to start again. Oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout joyfully to the Rock of our salvation. Let us come before His presence with thanksgiving. Let us shout joyfully to Him in psalms. For the Lord is the great God and the great King above all gods. In His hand are the deep places of the earth. The heights of the hills are His also. The sea is His, for He made it, and His hands formed the dry land. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker. Verse 7. For He is our God, and we are the people of His pasture, and the sheep of His hand. Today, if you will hear His voice, do not harden your hearts, as in the rebellion, as in the day of trial in the wilderness, when your fathers tested me. They tried me, though they saw my work. For 40 years I was grieved with that generation, and said, "It is a people who go astray in their hearts, and they do not know my ways. So I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest." I know that the world looks so big, and it's easy to be afraid of everything that's around us. But that is why I believe our focus should be on the biggest thing in the room, and that is the Father. That's the Creator. I had a knowing recently. I had an overwhelming feeling around, and in me. And it got worse as I got into the shower. And I pictured myself standing on beach sand, and I saw just like the sea. That's just this vast sea that just continues as far as the eye could see. But this was not what was overwhelming me. It was the presence of the Father. And without even saying anything, He revealed some stuff to me through this feeling. And when I say feeling, it's like it was a knowing. He was communicating with me through this knowing. What He was showing me was that He is so big that He fills the room, and that all my problems were too small to even fit in the same room as Him. But here, as us still being in the flesh, right, we fill the room up with all materialistic stuff, like our debts, our finances, our governments, all these evil people, our situations and problems, and we fill the room up with these things. But He should be the main focus, because He's bigger than all of those things. And that's what He was showing me in that moment, that whenever I have a situation, remember, He is the biggest thing in the room. This was one of the biggest wake-up calls that I ever had. And He showed me things that I was stressing about didn't have space in this place, because it's all temporary. It was a reality check that my Goliaths were never going to win over the Creator and His will. And His will be done no matter who the adversary is. because even the adversary is allowed to live by the will of the Father. That human enemy is given the breath of life the next day and does not dictate how and when they have that breath of life. So they are at the mercy, the same mercy that I receive daily. The giver of life is bigger than our problems, but he is also bigger than us. In 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16 to 17, it says, "Do you not know that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are." Now that he revealed to me how small my problems really are, and how small my enemies really are, my faith in how big he is started to increase. He's revealing who he is, and I'm starting to know him better. You want to know what human idols are? I have had and probably still have many that I probably still don't see yet. If you want to know a few of them, or the idols of the heart, just listen to what we speak about the most and what we give most of our time to. Unseen is what is inevitably going to show us what the room should be filled with. That unseen is the Creator. It is His temple. It is His world. It is not my temple, and it is not my world. I did not create it. I am just a wanderer on a lifelong pilgrimage from the world to the tree of life. We focus on things that are more for the flesh than the spirit. In Matthew 6, chapter 6, verse 34, it says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Do we truly listen to Yeshua, or do we listen to our flesh? We say we follow him with our mouths, but do we follow him with our hearts? Is the question. Do we really listen to him, or are we like a wife or husband who does not respect and give authority to the head of the house when it comes to certain things? In fact, I never respected the priest in the temple previously. Kept telling him to take the back seat, even for his appointed times, because I wanted to do things the way I wanted to do them. This is a sad state. The sad state that I went through in my life, but the truth torments the flesh. The truth torments the flesh. How we treat the Creator is really a reflection of how we treat people. We have good days and bad days, sometimes more bad days than good. You see, what He has been showing me is the darkness is the same. The closer you are to the Father, the less you speak and do darkness. The further you are from the Father, the more you manifest the darkness. In John 6, chapter 44, John 6, verse 44, it says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day." Again, when I look at this verse, instead of bringing me to hate, fear, anger, judgment, mocking, it brings me now to, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." One of the reasons is because they could never go to the Father except if the Father took them out of the Egypt they are in, which is why instead of giving them the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, He has shown me to give them the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace. This is something that the flesh, it can't understand. For this is not flesh, but this is of the Spirit. By giving those around me these fruits, Father has brought them closer to Him. In John 15, right? In John 15, it says, "No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all things that I heard from my Father I have made known to you." Do we trust Him? The flesh does not allow us to trust Him. Or do we trust the other stuff around that can't give life? Friends, especially with being a friend to the Creator, right, is going to give us the right insight on what he wants us, or what he wants to have us understand at our appointed time. But also we have to be able to trust him. Friends should be able to trust each other. I have been telling people about a God I didn't really trust, and this is what he has been showing me. I thought I was giving people light, but it was a mixed light, because straight after talking about the Creator, I went straight back into the world, showing the world my lack of trust in God. My trust was lukewarm. I was not practicing what I preached. This is what he was showing me. He was always the biggest thing in the room. So we decided to switch the news off that was repeating itself, and started like putting on worship and praise music in the mornings. And the house was filled with joy, the joy of the Father. He is the biggest thing in the room. So we worship him instead of things of the world. The flesh lusts to know. Then when it knows, it then starts to idolize it, even without recognizing. We start making other gods because they get our time in worship. We preach it to others and then become its disciples. But the Creator is still the biggest thing in the room. Again, in the Psalm 93, verse 3, it says, "For the Lord is the great God and the great King above all gods." Just think about that. It's a refocusing of what he is doing. He is showing me that it was I was supposed to be focusing on in the midst of the storm. In Matthew chapter 14, 22 to 23, verse 22 to 23, it says, "Immediately Yeshua made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Yeshua went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, 'Is it a ghost?' And they cried out of fear. But immediately Yeshua spoke to them, saying, 'Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid.' And Peter answered him and said, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' So he said, 'Come.' And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Yeshua. Oh, but when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, 'Lord, save me.' And immediately Yeshua stretched out his hand and caught him, and said to him, 'O you of little faith, why did you doubt?' And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, 'Truly you are the Son of God.'" Again, this phase we are going through, I suggest, has been appointed, so we learn from them. I am not blaming anyone for what is happening, because I am going through this too. This is the process and this is the refining. But the flesh is getting grinded up in the process. It's not going to like it, because the flesh is at enmity with God. In Romans chapter 8, verse 7 to 9, it says, "Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be." So then, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of God dwells in you. Now, if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he is not his. This is one of the biggest issues the Creator has shown me with my flesh. over this journey. Whenever it came to the Creator and doing things for Him, I always made it about myself and my flesh. But I've always made it more about myself than the Creator. This flesh was leading me to death because it could not save me, but it was a sinking ship and it was pulling me down with it. It was my biggest enemy, and the world's darkness was so deceptive. It did whatever it needed to do to make me focus on other things going on in the world, while day in and day out, my flesh was speaking blasphemous and living blasphemously against the Creator. My flesh gave me no rest even on a Shabbat. It was a true adversary to the Creator, always looking for a scapegoat out there. It's crazy when you see these things. Always looking for a scapegoat out there to blame, while how I handled the situations in front of me was utter darkness. Even if someone trespassed against me, or if someone came and acted against me, the way I handled it showed me which fruit I was giving them. I repaid hate with hate. The Creator gives us the gift of life, but I was not grateful and complained about it. We didn't even earn or deserve it. And instead of using the gift for light, the pattern is to start off using it for darkness and for ourselves, which is selfishness. Whenever I got something, I could never enjoy it because something used to happen to me. Why, you would ask? One of the reasons was because I ended up idolizing, be it money or any other materialistic things. But again, everything else was to blame, not my actions or how I was living. So the Father started to give me rest because my burdens was heavy. So I started to give Him every situation. This is such a refreshing and it's a relief that I can give Him my situations because I am not the Creator. I am not God. And life can get so depressing at times when you try to control everything around you, even though it's just an illusion. Your control is an illusion because you don't even give yourself the breath of life. So you do not know that you're going to be here even in the next second. Matthew chapter 11, 28 to 30. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. One of the greatest gifts is when He starts to make the burden of the flesh a little lighter. So I pray today that the Father lightens the burden of the flesh from us. Amen. So that's basically a study that I wrote based upon the Father revealing to me what I was doing day in and day out. Always looking to fight with something out there or try to be right in an argument. But what those things never showed me was that I was the problem. We always want to tell someone else what they're doing is wrong, but we have a log in our own eye. So now I speak to the situation. Father has shown me mercy and patience and love, not a worldly love, but a love that comes from Him. Not a perversion of love, but the right version of love, according to His standard, because He is the standard maker. And He was showing me that, yes, there's all this stuff going on in the world, but it is a distraction because He's bigger than all of those things. People are so worried about countries and all this other stuff, but who gives them life? He is our Father. He is more powerful than them. A snap of the finger and everything's gone. But we don't see how big He is because the world is so deceptive because it makes everything else look as if it's bigger than the Creator. You know, and that is the deception. It makes the Creator look smaller. We say that He is big, but do we believe it? And how we interact in our situations actually show how big we really know He is. If our problems is high up there, and then it's like, yeah, I know Father's in control, but at the same time, all you're doing is talking about your issues, just like why the news is on repeat. They tell you the same situation over and over and over and over, and you get overwhelmed by it because it ends up being so big. Every second of the day, you ingesting it. You know, you're letting it enter the temple. You're letting this into the temple, and it starts to break down your faith. It starts to eat at you. It starts to break down who you are developing to be. And Father is going to show you this. Because once I switched that TV off, I started to get so much more peace. Once I started scrolling past the videos, Father started giving me more peace. Because it is Him I need to focus on. You see, Father is out of time. So if He is out of time, the story is already done. The ending is written already. It tells you the ending from the beginning. But do you believe Him? I pray that He gives us the faith, because the faith is not something we can give ourselves. So in our journey and our refining process, He gives us the faith, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He's the one that's strengthening me. He's the one that's strengthening my faith, strengthening my love, my patience. And how we react shows how much of Yeshua we have in us, or how bright His light is shining in us. So I would suggest to you that Father is in control. He's always been in control. And no matter how dark the darkness looks and what extent it goes into trying to destroy your faith, remember, Father is the biggest thing in the room. He's always been, He is, and He's always going to be the biggest thing in the room. Your situations are not going to defeat you. You are going to defeat your situations with the Father's word. That's exactly what Yeshua did. When the temptation comes, beat your temptations with Yeshua. He is the word of God. Beat your situations with the word of God. And you would see that Yeshua went through things in His life to show you how you should react. Even when there's times where you say, Father, take this cup away from me, Yeshua showed us what we're going to say in those situations, but then He showed us how we respond when the flesh starts to respond that way. We say, Father, not my will, but your will be done. So I pray the Father gives us the strength to go through our battles. I pray for the light to live in us, and that for Him to strengthen us, for we are victorious. Thank you so much for listening. Till the next time. Blessings to you and the family. Shalom.